I'm Nev Van Pellen. Thank you for joining us. Music, storytelling, and breaking down stigma around addiction was the focus of an event today, celebrating those on the path of recovery. The 11th annual Rockin Recovery event gave attendees the chance to listen to local recovery stories, connect with community resources, and show their support. Jessica Clement reports.
The CLE Coliseum was filled with music and hope, as it was the home of the 11th annual Rockin Recovery event. Created by the city's Drug Awareness Committee, it started as a way for the community to build awareness and break down the stigma surrounding addiction. The event featured live entertainment, various resources and support networks, as well as guest speakers who shared their stories of recovery. Committee Treasurer Tammy Turnbull says the event celebrates everyone on the road to recovery, no matter what stage they're at.
We do this to come together as a community so that we're no longer hiding what addiction is and we're breaking down stigmas.
Turnbull notes storytellers are always the highlight of the event, adding that this year they have 4 guests who wanted to tell their stories.
They show vulnerability by sharing their stories, and when people hear their stories, it helps to change minds. It breaks down stigma because you can see yourself in the eyes of those storytellers. Suddenly you either see yourself or a family member, a co-worker. It becomes real. And once the issue of addiction becomes real, we can start doing the work to fix it.
But today that person, he weeps for others like him. He finds strength in his community and rejoices in the experiences he's been given. He's discovered a purpose in the pain he carries. And he's 13 years drug-free.
Clarence Fisher was one of the guest speakers. He says the event can be a beacon of hope for those starting their path of recovery and can show them that they're not alone.
Community is very important, especially for Anishinaabe people, First Nations people. You know, it's part of our value system, and human beings generally, we strive in groups. You know, we strive when we're together, and that's this event sort of symbolizes that you know, the families of people who are in recovery or the families who have lost somebody to drugs and alcohol. We need to be together and we need to normalize recovery.
More information about the event and local resources can be found on the Thunder Bay Drug Awareness Committee Facebook page. Jessica Clement, TBT News.
Taking a look at national news, where a Pakistani citizen living in Canada has been arrested and charged with plotting a terrorist attack in New York City. CTV's Jeremy Charon has more.
It's an alarming arrest on Canadian soil of a man accused of planning a mass shooting in Brooklyn. Authorities on both sides of the border worked together to foil his plan. 20-year-old Mohammed Shahzeeb Khan is a Pakistani citizen who is living in Canada. The FBI says his arrest is the result of a months-long investigation.
During our investigation, we discovered Khan used encrypted messaging apps in planning a mass shooting attack at a Jewish site in New York City.
The 20-year-old was taken into custody earlier this week in Ormstown, Quebec, near the U.S. border by the RCMP. Commissioner Mike Duhaime says Khan's planned anti-Semitic attack against Jewish people in the U.S. is deplorable, and there is no place for such an ideological and hate-motivated crime in Canada. Khan faces 3 charges here in Canada: attempting to leave the country to commit an offense for a terrorist group, participating in the activities of a terrorist group, and conspiracy to commit an offense by violating U.S. immigration law. He'll appear in court on September 13th in Montreal. He's also charged in the U.S. with attempting to provide material support and resources to a designated foreign terrorist organization. He could face 20 years if convicted, and U.S. officials are now seeking his extradition. U.S. authorities say his goal was to kill Jewish people in the name of ISIS around October 7th, the 1-year anniversary of the Hamas massacre in Israel.
We have not been able to completely eliminate the threat coming from ISIS. There are individual actors performing or trying to perform such attacks also in the West, and this is something we have to be on the lookout for.
Now, little is known still about Khan. We know he traveled from the Toronto area to Quebec by car before trying to cross into the U.S., but it isn't clear how he got to Canada or why, and Immigrations Canada wouldn't confirm his immigration status with us. Jeremy Charon, CTV News, Ottawa.
Back to the region now, where Greenstone residents are dealing with the closure of their local beer store. Some of the main concerns raised by residents are the loss of jobs and lack of recycling options. Geraldton's beer store is one of 3 rural locations closing in northern Ontario after the province opened up beer and wine sales to convenience stores. Greenstone Mayor James McPherson says that losing jobs in a small town is always disturbing. He adds that the closure means not having a dedicated service for collecting recyclables.
We now have to deal with that waste at landfill. Instead of being recycling, we're all talking about we need to recycle. We're going to be getting more waste. It's going to take time up of our municipal workers. It's going to take space out of our landfills. Our landfills are already getting near capacity. This is just, it's tough for a small community.
Geraldton's hospital has been hard at work making itself more attractive for healthcare professionals. Equipment and services installed over the past few months have been serving the community well, according to hospital's CEO. Hospital administration says that the new imaging equipment is working flawlessly and the trauma room remains ready for serious cases. To top it off, a recent donation from Equinox Gold means even more services are coming to the community. Daryl Galusha, CEO of the Geraldton District Hospital, says all these services make the town an attractive place for healthcare professionals.
It's going to attract doctors, nurse practitioners, nurses, lab, x-ray. It's going to attract a lot of different professionals just because people are wanting to work with the newest and the best. And if you do a tour of our hospital, we're very blessed to have the newest and equipment. And you've been in the hospital and you've seen what we have to offer. And it's all brand new equipment, all brand new services that we're offering.
Ontario's Ministry of Natural Resources is looking into the usefulness of water bombers when battling forest fires. It's part of a research project that officials are calling the most challenging in fire science history. Jaden Billick has the story.
The effectiveness of water bombers in fighting forest fires has been the focus of an experiment beginning in 2017, when over 100 water drop tests were conducted with 6 of the most commonly used planes in the region from lightest to heaviest. The goal of these experiments was to find out each individual plane's drop footprint coverage in a field as well as a forest. Here's wildlife research scientist with the MNR, Melanie Wheatley, with more.
And so when we talk about drop footprints, essentially what I mean is how much water is hitting the ground, where is that water hitting the ground, and where it is dispersed within the drop footprint and how much it is dispersed within the drop footprint. Every different type of air tanker has distinct different drop footprints. And so what we did is, out of the air tankers that we have in Ontario and the ones that we commonly import, we tested the drop footprints to start our basic understanding of effectiveness.
After gathering physical data from real-world experimentation, the next step for the team was to use theoretical energy-based models of air tanker suppression, which are essentially ways to determine fire level intensity and how much water needs to be used in order to combat these fires into a smolder. However, Wheatley says this is not based off of real-world applications.
We know fire intensity is exhibiting energy, and so we can guess for different levels of fire intensity how much energy is coming off of that fire. When we add water from an air tanker to a fire, what you're doing is essentially you're adding negative energy. And so we create these models that essentially say, if we know how much energy is coming out of the fire, and we know how much negative energy is going into the fire, at some point, that balance is going to be zero.
The third step was to put the information into real-world studies, in collaboration with the National Research Council of Canada and the Canadian Forest Service.
And so we knew that we had to do this experiment August 1st to August 10th. And we were banking on the environment and a lightning strike to give us an ideal candidate fire that was an ideal location, that was an ideal fuel type, that had a uniform active fire line, so that we can conduct this experiment within that 10-day window.
The information is being processed, but the outstanding finding as of now is there is not one singular plane best fit for every job. And fires are needed to be assessed in order to deploy the right plane for the right job. Jaden Billick, TBT News.
Local agriculture, a plowing competition, and a tractor rodeo were the feature attractions in Slate River today as the Rural Heritage Agricultural Society hosted its annual Rural Heritage Days. Hundreds came out to learn about the experience, the region's agricultural history, through displays and demonstrations. The event featured the 92nd annual Slate River plowing match, which had competitors showing off their skills and plowing the fields in perfectly straight rows. Visitors were also able to watch a tractor rodeo, see antique farming machinery, and interact with livestock. Society President Leo Bleckenhorst notes the event has grown a lot since it started over 90 years ago and says it helps keep agriculture spirit alive.
It's a totally volunteer run. It's originally, a number of farmers that got together to, set a day aside to show their plowing, skills and compete in that way, and it sort of grew from there. The uniqueness of this fair is that we actually, it's like a live sort of museum, you could say, where we're actually bringing the history of and bringing the equipment to life from the past and actually operating it as it was intended.
We're now joined by sports anchor Joel Mendelson. And Joel, feels like it's been a long wait, but football is officially back. It's off to a pretty good start.
Longest summer of my life, honestly, but we're finally back. It's football season, almost the best time of year, but we'll have more on that when we come back from the break.